In this video, I'm going to be showing you a demonstration of the app that I'll be having you use for today's activity, for activity 12. This app is actually a prototype that I created using a certain program, and it simulates a two-sample t-test, and it actually lets you check if you made a correct conclusion or a type 1 error or type 2 error. So let me just walk you through a few examples of using this app. So first of all, we have two imaginary populations, population 1 and population 2. And these two populations could be anything. They could be two universities, they could be two cities. And what we have up here is the mean age of population 1 and the mean age of population 2. And these are two unknown numbers. That's why they're both question marks. And I'm having you imagine that you're a researcher who would like to know if these two populations are different in age. And you're going to be taking a random sample of population 1 and a random sample of population 2 and recording the ages of your samples and running a two-sample t-test to reach a conclusion. So what you do is you click on Take Samples and you get your data. So here we have the ages of 5 people from population 1 and the ages of 5 people from population 2. And if you click on Calculate, it's going to calculate your sample statistics. So here we have the mean age of the 5 people in sample 1 from population 1, and the mean of the 5 people in sample 2, which comes from population 2. So this mean age right here is just an estimate of the mean of population 1, and this right here is just an estimate of the mean of population 2. Because they're the sample means. And now down here we have the t-score, which is what's used for the t-test. Now what you need to do is select your alpha level. And it's typically always 0.05 in a hypothesis test. So in this activity, I'm always going to have you select 0.05. And when you click 0.05, what it does here is it reveals the two critical values for 0.05 and also for your sample size. So these come from the t-table. Now what you need to do is look at the t-score of your data set and decide which of the 3 areas it's located in. So it's negative 0.65, the t-score, which is between these two critical values, because negative 0.65 is about right there. So it's in the non-rejection region, which means since it's in the non-rejection region, we don't reject the null hypothesis. We retain the null hypothesis, which means we're holding on to the possibility that the population means are equal and that there's no difference between them. And when you make a decision here, it actually reveals the two population means. This won't happen in an actual research study, but this is what it does in my simulation. And it looks like the two population means are equal, which means down here, we made a correct decision. We retained the possibility that the population means are equal. We retained the null hypothesis, and that was actually a good decision because the population means are actually equal. There really is no difference, and these two sample means down here of 36.2 and 36.8 were different simply by chance. So we have a correct decision for the null hypothesis. We're in favor of the null hypothesis. And if we click on Reset, that's going to record our correct decision right here. So what this is saying here in our record is the population means were equal and we made a correct decision. Now if our data set had led us to conclude, if our data set had led us to reject the null hypothesis and reject the possibility that the population means are equal, and it turned out that they were equal after all, that would be a false alarm, which would be a type 1 error. Remember, type 1 error is when you reject the null hypothesis and you decide that something is happening, but really there's nothing there. It's a false alarm. Now what we do, well, we clicked on Reset and it updated our record, and now we can do another simulation. So Here we're imagining that we have two completely new populations. And once again, we would like to know if the mean age of population 1 is different from the mean age of population 2. And you're going to be doing a t-test once again to make a decision. So click on Take Samples. You get your data set from 10 people. Click on Calculate to get your sample means and your t-score. Now our t-score is negative 13.24. So once again, click on alpha of 0.05. Do that every time. Here we're in the negative rejection region because negative 13 is way out here. So we're going to click negative rejection region, and it tells me if I'm correct. If I wasn't correct, it would say try again. So since I'm in one of the rejection regions, I'm going to reject the null hypothesis. Then this reveals the two population means, and they are actually different. They're 10 apart. So I rejected the null hypothesis. I rejected the possibility that the population means are equal and decided that they're different, and they are actually different. So I have a correct decision. And this right here tells me if I picked the correct answer right here. And I did because I clicked on correct decision, and that's actually correct. So this is a way of checking your answer from right here. And when I click on reset, it's going to update my record again. So now I have a simulation in which the population means were not equal, and I made a correct decision that deciding that they're not equal. So now I have a correct decision over here and a correct decision over here, because in the first simulation, the population means were equal, and I correctly decided, I made a correct decision. Here they were not equal, and I made a correct decision. Now I have, since I clicked on reset, I have two completely new populations again. I'm studying two new populations. And once again, what I want to know is there a difference in age between these populations? So now I do another data collection and another t-test. Now it's 1.57. So now I pick my alpha again. Now the t-score is 1.57. It's between the critical values, which is non-rejection. Here's my t-score. So since I'm in the non-rejection region, I don't reject the null hypothesis, which means I'm giving the null hypothesis the benefit of the doubt. I'm just assuming that the population means are equal and that there's no difference. But if you look at the population means, there is actually a small difference. They're two apart, which means that there is a difference, but my data set simply failed to pick up on it. My data failed to show strong enough evidence for that difference. And that's a type 2 error, because a type 2 error is a type 2 error is retaining the null hypothesis when it's actually false, which means, in more simple language, just assuming that nothing is happening and giving that the benefit of the doubt when really there really is something out there and you just didn't pick up on it. So we're going to pick type 2 error, and I click on reset, and now I have a type 2 error in my record. So in two of my simulations, the population means were not equal. There was a difference, and in one of them, I correctly decided that there's a difference, and that was a correct decision. But in the other one, I missed it. My data set failed to pick up on that difference that was actually there, and it became a type 2 error. So if you keep going, every time you do this, it'll give you two new populations, and it'll let you do the t-test. Then when you make your decision up here, it'll reveal the two population means. And at that point, you can make your decision about if it's a correct decision, type 1 error, type 2 error. It'll let you check your answer, and then you click on reset to update your record. So let me just give you one more quick summary of what's happening here. First you click Take Samples, you get your data, then you click calculate, you get your statistics and your t-score. You always click 0.05 for alpha. Then you take your t-score and you check which of the 3 areas it's in, and you select that one by clicking on one of these 3 buttons. Then after that, you make your decision based right here, based on this visual, or based on this picture right here. So if the t-score is in the negative rejection region or positive rejection region, one or the other, it's reject. If it's in the non-rejection region, in between the critical values right here, do not reject. And then after that, when you click on one decision or the other, it's going to reveal the population means. And then at that point, you can decide if you made a correct conclusion or an incorrect conclusion about the populations. Then you pick one of these, and it'll tell you if you picked the correct one. It'll check your answer. Then finally, click on reset. It'll update your record, and you can go on to the next round of the simulation. So I'm going to have you do a certain number of these simulations today and have you record your outcomes. And if you have any questions, I'll be in Zoom today from 1:30 to 2:45.